Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Centric. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are crime dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season 3 premiere of Reacher. Great season premiere. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So I think this episode did such a masterful cold opening before we even got to the title card. I thought was so well done. It's not till partway through the episode. It's actually not till they're explaining everything near the later parts of the episode that I was like, it should have been so obvious this was a setup. First and foremost, Reacher's in a car. He's in a vehicle. Why the hell would he be in a vehicle? He doesn't really do that. It's just once again, our introduction to him was getting off a bus and walking into town. He always walks or goes by bus. And if he can't go by bus, he'll walk there until he can go by bus. So why would he rent a vehicle? Even if it was I'm going to sell these vinyls and stuff, which is also stupid on my part because the only thing Reacher ever keeps on him, as we see, is his passport and a toothbrush. That's it. And I was I forgot the telltale Reacher signs, and that should have been obvious that something's off here. That should have been the telltale sign. But also, I love those type of reveals. If you don't know, if this is your first time ever hearing me talk about it, I love the show Leverage. Leverage would constantly do that. And that's one of my favorite parts about Leverage of, okay, this is what's going down. You think things went this way, but let's show you what really happened behind the scenes. It's kind of that thing. I love reveals like that. I thought it was so masterfully done because I was like, yo, is this what this season's going to be? I was like, oh, that sucks. Reacher tried to step in and stop this kid Richard from getting kidnapped. And then, he accidentally kills a cop in the process. I was like, damn. Because I was about to say, Reacher is usually on top of stuff like that. I get it. It's panic of the moment. But I'm like, is he off his game or something? So it's right, we got to get out of here. He's like, actually, I don't want anything to do with you. Which I'm like, kind of makes sense. But also, Reacher's a good guy. So he's going to stick something through. It's yo, this kid's in danger. I'm going to see this through for him to, like I said, in retrospect, when you're caught up in the rush of emotion of everything, yo, shit's popping off. I think that's also the point. It's to make you not think, to everyone else, it probably was obvious if something's not right. But I think it's also the point is to make things so boom, 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 so that you have no time to really think about it. Because shit just went to 0 to 100 so fast that you don't have time to really pick up on, oh, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. Once again, it's only retrospectively that I kind of was oh, this makes it seem from the beginning, it's obvious that it's a fake setup, considering if we know Reacher enough over 2 seasons to know his little idiosyncrasies, little things about him, that it's none of that made sense, So, and the kid had to plead with Richard, Reacher, he'd be yo, come on, please, because he's oh, we could go to the cops. It's I can't. I killed a cop. Like I said, I was really yo, is this what the season's gonna be? That sucks. It was it was an accident, but it's still he's I don't want to be an SH. He's kind of got caught up with law enforcement 2 seasons in a row. So it's are we about to make this? This would have been the worst of them all. His run-in with the local law enforcement and everything. So he shook campus police. And I was oh, that's just going to stick more on top. I was man. And it's is he really all about yo, I'm going to disappear? But I'm there's no way you're going to disappear. You're going to get dragged into this unwillingly. So because Richard's yo, my dad sells rugs. But it's is that really it? Are someone just going to kidnap you? Apparently they tried to do it 5 years ago. Your dad didn't pay the ransom to cut off your ear and sent it to him. So he did pay it this time. So I'm okay. So once again, Steph you're because even you can tell Richard knows there's more to his dad's business, but he knows not to talk about it because it's probably that plausible deniability of I actually don't know what my dad does, because either the little we get to see of him in his relationship with his dad, it's would your dad tell you anything if you asked? Because maybe you have asked in the past and he hasn't said anything. Or it's a thing of you just know that you and a father aren't in a place for him to answer those questions. He would never, you're not important enough to him in a lot of ways. Yes, you're his son, but you're kind of, and I'm sure he feels this way. You kind of feel that he feels this way, or he feels more like a burden and obligation where it's I have to look after you because you're my son. But there's such a detachment from his son, and we don't know. It could easily be a thing of losing his wife did that, or maybe he was already like that from the beginning, because Richard talks about having lost his mom when he was 4. Obviously for Reacher, it wasn't he was an adult when he lost his mom with her being sick. Him and Joe, we saw that. Wasn't that last season, or was that season 1? I can't remember. I want to say that was last season. Yeah, because last season, the one I think flashback to his past, or was that season 1? Because I'm blurring that all together now. I'm sorry. Yeah, it was season one because season two's flashbacks were the 1/10 stuff. So it was definitely season one flashbacks about uh, his younger years and stuff like that. I believe. Not like I said, not unless I'm wrong again. But either way, obviously this is kind of like a big mansion type of thing, heavy security. The security guard Paul does not like Reacher because he's like, get out the vehicle, and Reacher's like, no, and Richard's like, go ahead, just do it. He's like, no, he's rude, and he's just like, please, and he did it because I was like, well, he's going to do it because Richard said please. And it's just like, oh, whoa, why does this gun have no bullets? It's like, because I shot them all. And it's just like, he's such a dick. And I do like that, like, despite Reacher being the massive unit that he is, this Paul guy's even bigger. So it's like, yikes. So either way, we meet Richard's dad, who played by Anthony Michael Hall. I cannot remember what it was. There was something fairly recently. It might have been last year or something. There was something I watched where he was an FBI agent, and I can't for the life of me remember what it was. The thing I was thinking of was Bosch Legacy. That was like gnawing at my head because I was like, what was it? I was like, I knew it was something fairly recent and I could not remember what it was, but it was like, yeah, it was Bosch Legacies. Season 2. But either way, I hope I didn't mess up and call him Michael C. Hall earlier because I do kind of like for what I know who they are, but it's just like I sometimes mix their names up. I hope I did say Anthony Michael Hall earlier because I kept like trying to remember his name until we got to the credits, and I was like, right, Anthony Michael Hall, because like I said, I keep doing Michael C. Hall, who is Dexter. So tangents and all that aside, but yeah, no, Reacher playing it like he does. It's like, oh, here's some drinks. I'd immediately think like, well, Reacher probably doesn't want to drink it because it's like, well, I also don't know what you might have put in it. He's like, also sit. It's like, once again, he does not take orders well, so he's just standing there. Guy's like, all right, what do you want? He's just like, I need money to disappear and time to figure stuff out. Give me a fake ID. I could disappear. He's like, all right, I just want to know who you are. How'd you know like things were about to pop off the way they did? Ends up running his prints later on, showing that, like I said, I think the character's name is Zachary, has quite a few connections, and ended up running Reacher and found out all the stuff about his file, all that he's been through and stuff like that, and proceeded to have Reacher play Russian roulette. It's like, wow, that game is getting a lot of play recently. And I was initially, I was like, yo, are you that down bad, Reacher, that you're just like, all right, like, I'm gonna spin it once. Okay, no whammies. Okay, it's good. Oh, I'm gonna spin it again. No whammies. Oh, I'm gonna spin it again. No whammies. Oh, I'm gonna spin it again. No whammies. I was like, wow, you are just. And the guy's like, all right, you proved your point. I was like, wow. I was like, are you really kind of like? I mean, the later parts, you're like, oh, it seems pretty tense. But I was like, man, he's kind of down bad, isn't he? Like that's happening. But then he was like, oh, I wasn't worried about it because at first I was like, could you tell the weight of where the gun is? Like I was like, I thought it was some shit like that, but he's like, no, like there's no gunpowder or whatever in the bullet. And the guy Duke shoots the gun, and it's like, guy was like, and I love Reacher's response of, well, what would you have done if I killed myself? He was like, would have dealt with your body the same way we deal with the last guy that died. And he was so matter of fact about it. Because even I love that, like, wow, is Reacher just off his game that he didn't even like clock that? I also love that you look at the situation with you can immediately tell like, all right, that's setting the stage for something because the oil or whatever it is, the can that got shot, it was dripping down. You can tell, all right, so like there's a hidden compartment, like, well, there's a hidden door there, so like there's something underneath the floorboards and stuff. Then he gets locked in a room. He's checking it for bugs, so you know, like, all right, something's about to go down. My immediate thought when he pulled out the phone, I was like, is he calling Neely? And then we get the flashback to find out, like, because I thought, like, oh, he's going to call Neely, ask her for help and stuff like that, and tell her. I was like, but then, like, when he pulls the phone out, I was like, wait, is this an inside job for Neely? But it's like, no, it's for the FBI. We get introduced to Agent Duffy. Really quickly, I want to talk about this because I was wondering why I recognized the actress. Her name is Sonia Cassidy. I was like, what do I recognize her from? And I looked at her filmography. I think the thing I recognize her from is, I didn't see all the episodes of it, but I saw some of it. I liked it. It's just I never went back to it. Was Lodge 49. And I saw that she was in one episode of Soulmate. So I'm like, I might know what episode that was from. But yeah, that's why she seemed so familiar to me. I love that line. What was it? One of the other FBI agents like, oh yeah, you've got more awards than Tom Brady. And she's like, that fucking traitor. I was like, I love that line. Just like how snarky her and her team is. I love their like retort, their back and forth, especially with Elliot, who's kind of like the newbie, where he's just like, oh yeah, this is Zachary Beck. Do you recognize him? It's like, you don't tell him the guy's name and then ask him, does he recognize? He's like, yeah, shit, sorry, ma'am. I was like, this poor guy. I hope we don't find out he's going to be like the mole, or there's always got to be like a dirty cop every season. Or I mean, that's the go-to if any like crime drama cops and agents and stuff. Like, there's always going to be the dirty one. I hope it doesn't end up being him, because he seems lovable. Either he's going to be a dirty cop, or he's going to be the traitor, or it's going to be a situation of he's going to get killed, because like, it's going to, considering what happened last season. I mean, that's the thing, we got it last season, so they probably won't do it this season, because both of our good cops came out of it alive in season 1. The one good cop through it all in season 2 sadly died. So I think we're going back to, hopefully no one on this team dies, but there are 3 of them, so there's a good chance at least one of them might. I hope everyone makes it out of this, but I feel like out of anyone who's most likely going to get it, it might be Elliot, but it might be the other dude. I'm going to butcher his name. It's like, was it Villeneuve? Billy, it's what Elliot called him for short. I feel like it could also be him, and let Elliot stick around because he is like the new guy and the rookie. So there's multiple ways it can go. I don't think, it seems like obviously Duffy's going to be our mainstay, but once again, last season with Russo last season, that could end up being a you thought maybe he'd stick around, and it's like, sadly, his story played out the way it did. So we'll ultimately have to wait and see. But because it's all started with, like, because I don't even know if we knew what Reacher was doing before all this. He was just there. He was stopping a kid from doing some, like, mugging thing, because he's like, yeah, I know you're trying to pick a target. You're picking this mom who has, like, a 4-year-old who has more of attention. He's like, here, just take this money. Because he's like, if you want to be smart about it, you would have, like, a bus pass and stuff. I'm like, you're giving the guy more tips about the next time he does it. Because, I mean, I guess Reacher's like, if you're going to do it, at least be smart about it. So, hey, I'm going to save your life now, because the next person you pull up on like this might just beat the living shit out of you. But then he recognizes a guy. He calls up Powell, who's, I think this is his first time interacting with the 110th post, like him and his squad. So the new bloods. And the guy's like, oh my God, you're a legend. It's like, there's this like dent in your desk. The legend says like you smashed like a colonel's head in it. It's like, no, it's from like O'Donnell having like, was it Lowry's bowling ball or something like that, and Lowry paid him back by drawing a dick on his face, or something. He drew balls on his face or something, like maybe. So I was like, oh, little reminder, which is obviously sad, because we know like Lowry wasn't even the situation last season. It was just like he died in a car accident, if I remember correctly. Because if I remember correctly, like his circumstances what connect to the deaths of the others. Like last season, I think his was just like a sadly, like, yeah, he died in a car accident. So if I remember correctly, I could be misremembering, but either way. But that put Reacher on the FBI's watch list, because Powell ran something that's related to one of their investigations, because they were looking into a drug dealer who has connections to Beck, because they believe Beck is kind of like the guy that's helping kind of orchestrate a lot of that. So they're kind of one in the same case. They couldn't get the drug dealer dude, so they're hoping to get Beck so they can get the drug dealer guy. But their last attempt at this kind of went sour when they went to go after the, I believe it's the drug dealer guy. I thought that was such an interesting thing. I mean, the technicalities exist for a reason, because the law is the law. So it's kind of like, what was it? What's the phrase again? The legal jargon of like, was it fruit or the poisonous tree, where it's just kind of like, because you got the evidence technically illegally, no matter what you found, even if it is damning evidence, can't be used. So like, because someone didn't pay attention to the property owned, it made it so that they were technical on private property. They were like 20 feet over the line or something like that. So none of that evidence counted. So it kind of threw their entire investigation down the drain. And now Duffy and her squad are handling this investigation on their own, and they want to bring Reacher into it. And Reacher's like, all right, I need you to look into the guy I was looking at. And it turns out he's someone that because this guy had ties to the military police. He stole information from the government, would sell it to other nations. It was interesting because I was wondering, like, is he someone like Reacher knew? Like, was he a white whale that the 110th had never dealt with? Was he someone that Reacher thought he dealt with? Because he thought the guy was dead. Because it's like, yeah, because Reacher was like, yeah, the guy had a bullet to his head. So I feel like Reacher was probably there when it went down, if not the one who did it. But it's like, yeah, that's why I'm like, is it happenstance? Did you just happen to just come across this guy and this whole thing just sets you in motion down this whole case? Or was there a reason why you were there? I don't know if he was the main reason why you were there, because he was there meeting with Beck or getting in one of Beck's vehicles. So we'll probably have to wait to see. Well, like I said, whether it was just complete another accident, because he even said like, oh, he only came to Maine for like lobster. He was like, yeah, I was somewhere else. It had subpar lobster, so I came to Maine. That was kind of his excuse, and he is the wanderer that he is. So that is a strong possibility. But once again, we don't really know why he was really here. That's the excuse he gave to the FBI, but he's never going to tell them why he was really here. But I guess he makes it seem like he still like stumbled across that guy accidentally, but maybe he knew there was going to be something going down, and I don't know. Not unless he followed that guy here to Maine, or maybe there's whispers, or he caught a photo of the guy and knew he was here in Maine, and that's what set him to be here in Maine. I don't know. I'm sure we'll find out the truth behind it, whether the FBI will find out later. Well, Duffy and them will find out later maybe, but for now. But yeah, this guy, that was like 2012 or something like that is when it went down. So obviously it's been like 12, 13 years. Because I think, yes, it's coming out now, but I think this is probably like set in 2024. So it's been like 12 years. So I'm wondering, like, besides like him just like being a traitor and stuff like that, why this is personal to Reacher, because it could easily be a thing of someone that Reacher knew and was friends with might have died because of the information that this guy sold out to other nations, type of thing. So, because he's also done a good job of like keeping himself off the radar. It's like, yeah, he was in the military and stuff, but he was able to kind of get rid of any photos or any fingerprints and stuff like that, kind of, you know, disappear on a digital front, on a records front. But yeah, it's kind of like, hey, let's work together. I scratch your back, you'll scratch ours. But I also love Duffy's approach with Reacher, where it's just kind of like, she's, because he had asked her for help initially, and she's like, I don't want to. And he was like, why? She's like, because you answer questions like an asshole. He's like, why are you always so direct? She's like, are you always so frustrated? He can't even say anything. He kind of has this look on his face like, yeah, you know, I've been told that from time to time, and, you know, people can corroborate that about me, so. But then they had, like I said, kind of the very Leverage-esque moment where they're kind of breaking everything down about how we got up to this, how like they concocted this whole plan about kidnapping, or faking a kidnapping of Richard, and it was Reacher who came up with the idea of just kind of like how to orchestrate the whole situation. Even later on suggesting like, oh, we got to mix in some live ammunition to make it seem real. And I even love Duffy being like, yeah, I was waiting for one of us to kind of throw that out there. It's like they really are in sync. And I love that she's like, yeah, I like this plan. Hard cut to Billy being like, I do not like this plan. What if you forget, like, you keep firing, you forget which one's like the blank bullets? And I love Reacher's like, and puts a knife to the cylinder of it and is like, yes, so now I'll always know where the blanks start. And it's like, oh, is that supposed to make me feel better? So I love that whole situation. And then later on, when he's explaining to Duffy what Beck had him do, she was like, Jesus. He was like, yeah, I didn't have to worry about it because luckily I put the knife to the chamber. So he came up with the excuse about why he was so okay with doing that. I thought it was interesting because I'm like, oh, you would have thought you would have been okay after 2 or 3. You went for the 4, but I guess it's like, right, you want to sell it that you might be a little unhinged and crazy, you know, so. But you want to sell that a little bit more because I guess like 2 or 3 times they might just think you're lucky. Any less than that, they'll just kind of like, okay, you're fine. But it's like any more than that, then it would have been suspicious. So it's like, oh, because it would have been like, you were the luckiest SOB or something's wrong here. So thought that was interesting. I wonder, was he actually not expecting them to actually put live bullets in there? Like, was he actually like, oh, I know it was a fake, and it's like, oh, no, actually it was a real bullet, but it could be a thing of like, he was fine with it either way. But I think he was legitimately potentially caught off guard because he probably knew there might have been a real bullet. I don't know. Reacher's not always the easiest to read, so it's always hard to say what he knew when, type of thing, or what he assumed. As he always says, assumptions kill. So I doubt he just assumes that the bullet was fake. So that's why I was like, that's probably him playing along to be like, oh, I want to show you that I'm overconfident and that I can be wrong. But it's like, no, I knew what was what from the beginning, most likely. Another reason why this is so important to Duffy specifically is because she had a CI, Teresa, who is the one she busted, turned out to be a really good CI because it's like, right, she's so earnest and unassuming. She provided a lot of information in the past, and she's the one that picked her to kind of be an insider for Beck's operation. But like a week prior to the setup and everything, it's like, oh, she disappeared. So I wonder what happened to her. And Reacher's like, right, considering the guy I was tracking down is a part of this. His name's Quinn. I was trying to remember his name. It's like, because of him, you can't discount the fact is that she might already be dead because he's a very deadly dude. And she's like, why would you say that? He's like, you are too smart to be lied to, and if I tried to lie to you, you would see through it. So I'm going to be honest with you. Yes, I could come off being like an asshole. You know, he's also like, I'm sure for him, it's like sometimes like the hard truth is better than some white lie, you know? But yeah, that's the main motivation for Duffy and all of this. And immediately you're just kind of like scared because you're like, Reacher's going to find Teresa's dead body. But he did bring up another point. Duke did take like some food. Like Reacher's like, oh, I'll just take this plate. The guy's like, no, that's not for you. And he left with it. So you're like, okay, so there's a good chance they're feeding Teresa because she's still alive. So also, you know, kind of on a minute, like, you know, infiltration, like spy type of thing. Love the whole phone in the bottom of the boot whole bit. I love that. I was like, oh, that's cool. Also, that phone looks, I mean, it's a small phone in general, but it's like, Jesus Christ, that phone looks so small in Alan Richardson's hands. It's like, geez, once again, everyone says it every time. It's like, that dude is fucking massive. It probably looked the same way in my hands as well. Obviously, I am on the opposite spectrum of Reacher, where it's like, well, Alan Richardson, he's like yoked out of his mind. Me, I'm a fat piece of shit. So, you know, once again, opposite sides of the spectrum, but the end result of the phone would look tiny in my hands too. Just kind of want to put that out there. Either way, Reacher, the episode ends with him checking out the hidden air compartment, finds the plate and wasn't fully empty. And I was kind of worried. I was like, oh my God, is he going to find Teresa's body? But no, he finds a earring, a very specific one from the photo that Duffy showed him. So it's like, okay, so she was down here fairly recently and was taken, considering the food was just brought to her earlier in the day, like a couple hours ago. So it's like, okay, so she's still alive. So why did they move her? They must have moved her because it's like, right, everyone here knows what's what, so we can keep her in that spot. Now that we have some unknown X factor like Reacher, we got to play this safe. So it's like, we don't want someone else here trying to play hero if he knows she's here. So they moved her somewhere else. So I'm also curious to see if we're going to find out whether or not Richard's kind of a bad guy or not. He seems very unassuming, has a very complicated relationship with his dad. You know, him and Reacher had that whole scene about paintings where it's like, oh, what did you, he only paints stuff that he sees, because it's like, kind of seems like this is all kind of basically his entire world. It's just stuck in these walls, considering who his dad is, and probably the whole getting kidnapped, like almost kidnapped, no, not almost, definitely kidnapped 5 years ago, changed a lot of stuff, I'm sure. Probably also makes it so that Beck probably rarely leaves his compound type of thing, probably unless under very specific circumstances, and he probably has to be like up the wazoo with security. I even love the whole bit where it's like, oh, Reacher, if you were to paint something, what would be? He's like, I don't know, probably dogs. As we do know, he has a very, very soft spot for dogs, obviously. But I'm curious to dive into that more, the whole, well, he paints a very specific view of his world because he's painting the outside, but he doesn't include like the guardhouse and stuff like that. Like, it's like the ugly aspects of his world he tries to kind of ignore, because I guess he tried to at least live through his paintings, maybe. That's how, once again, we're deep diving into something that's a part of the episode. We got 7 more episodes to kind of deep dive into all that is Richard and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm excited to see where all this takes us, kind of see how this whole situation continues as Reacher balances out, you know, obviously being undercover, but also like, You know, it's that tumultuous thing of like, how do you work around how do you work around doing bad stuff while you're undercover? Like, how will he kind of make that work? And you know, will he feel sympathetic for Richard? I mean, for Richard, and like I said, will Richard end up being a bad guy? Will he end up being more like his dad than we kind of think? Will he try to be more like his dad to impress his dad for like some like, oh, I need daddy's love type of thing? Or can he be saved from all of this? Like, is he just as much of a victim in all of this? That's going to be something I'm sure it's going to explore. I should also note I did not watch a frame of this show of this trailer, so I've not seen any spots or any trailers, anything. So I had no idea what to expect for the season, and I'm glad. It's going to be interesting to see where the season ends up taking us overall. I'm excited to see where the next episode takes us. Really, that's all I wanted to talk about. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.